So we need to have that balance. That's why we move from left to right, why we move from logic to heart. We have to have a center place where we can all talk. You know, we did this in Greece over 2,000 years ago. We'd have these areas where we would send people. They wouldn't get paid. They'd come out of their daily life. They would get elected by their peer groups, and they would be sent to a forum where they could discuss what's going on locally and as a nation. Now, I'm not saying that we need to be Greece of 2,000 years ago, but those concepts of being able to hear and feel that you're represented in the central point of communication in your nation, in your state, in your shire, those are the inalienable rights that we all want, right? So let's do an experiment. We've got this tool. It's called blockchain. Not everybody understands all the components of it. That's fine. But what it does is it says if I write something down, it's written down, and nobody else can come along and fudge it. So if 20 people come and vote, there should be 20 votes, and we can use different technology to not make the perfect voting system. I'm not claiming that these types of systems are infallible, but they're much more accurate and less fallible than the systems we have.
Yeah, actually, I talk about that in the video I've just made about the voting app.
Right.
2 points actually. One point I make is that once we've got this app, anybody will be able to download it for free.
Right.
And that means that we will empower people in countries all over the world to start doing what we're doing here now, and to bring in citizens-initiated referendums so that everybody has a voice in our government.
Right.
And the second thing is that when we talk about the security of the blockchain, you mentioned there that the data has been locked in at that particular point on the blockchain. Now, a lot of people ask me, well, what about if somebody else logs in as me on the app and tries to vote for me? Can you answer that question?
So can you imagine somebody downloading Candy Crush and their scores go to your account? That's what we're talking about, right? Somebody could do that. Somebody could do that. But there's a certain amount of security in the system to make it so that it's very hard for their points to end up on your screen, right? So that's what we call basic ICT, basic computer security level. Now, if at the same time, every time you played the game, hidden but available to you was a series of who, what, wheres, and whys around that game. Like, what if every time you played the game, you had to say exactly where you were, what time of the day it was, and how long you played, right? You'd create a personality. You'd create a personality that's assigned to that game when you play it. So that when somebody plays in Kansas, the game, at a different time zone with a different tempo, it's obvious that that game's information should not be assigned to you. It was done at the wrong time, in the wrong place, in the wrong manner, even with the wrong tempo. So that's what we're talking about with these voting apps. We want to add aspects that will allow us to look back through the history of vote and see that there are anomalies. And the reason we can do that is none of the information can be erased. Not the who you are, because we don't put that on the app. That's on a separate system. Not the who certified you to vote. That's done through governments and other mechanisms. But when the vote is done, the aspects around the vote that is not your personal data can be analyzed. So now we can say, well, gosh, you know, this person has voted, and this person's same pattern has been voting in all these different states as if they were members of that state. Now, we don't have that information now. Now we can't go back in history and find out the validity of those votes. But if we had blockchain voting for the past 10 years, we could find out how much those votes were manipulated. We can't do that without these new tools. Yeah, it's not so much a matter of someone copying your vote or voting for you, but it's being able to look back and make sure that it's you that's voted. Because if you voted in a bunch of elections and they're pretending to be you, but you don't have access to it, you can prove that. Right? So you can go back and you can pull your votes out of those things, because if they're saying they're you, you can change your mind. And the cool thing about the blockchain is, even though it's immutable, on this day I voted for this, but on this day I got new information. So now I'm voting like this. that's possible on the
Now,
blockchain.
that brings me to an interesting question, which I also covered in the video. Once we vote, that vote becomes immutable for that particular vote. So I cannot change that.
It can be if the vote itself, if we say, here's my little ledger of votes, and we're going to have all the individuals come in and vote, I will have a timeline as to how long that vote is open. And this entity could say, I want to go yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Okay, no is the vote that's recorded.
I gotcha.
Right. And so one of the problems is that we have to show up on a day or at a time in a place to vote. It would be kind of nice that if we had the ability to vote at the start of the election cycle and right up until the day that the votes were tallied, I would be allowed to change my mind, because we are inundated with information. We are learning constantly, and we're allowed to change our minds. We shouldn't be caught out.
I have to change a bit.
But I'm saying that these are my ideas around voting structures. Mine and many other smarter people than I have come up with these ideas. I'm just latching on to the things.
It's based on blockchain logic, though. I mean, that's how the blockchain works.
Exactly, because we're a transactional ledger. I could change 5,000 times until the rule says you can't change anymore. Right now, we have the collect data, collect data, collect data, collect data, go to a place one day, vote, and then go, oh, did I check the right box? Because that box was really complicated, right? So we need to have a way of being able to articulate our ideas over time, then finally decide when that decision needs to happen. If we're deciding that we need a new water supply because the water supply in this town has lead in the pipes, the community should get together, not the state agencies and all these things. The community should say, we would like this amount of effort come into our region and solve this problem, whether it's bottled water for every household or if it's ripping up the sewer lines. We need a solution today. And so we were putting this vote together, and we're saying how many people can help this happen. Our votes are not just our choices, though. We can vote with dollars, right? We vote with dollars every day on Amazon. We vote with dollars every day when we look at ads on Facebook and Google. So there's no reason that we can't also say, oh, you know what, I'm voting, and I think this is such a big problem that I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is. So we not only have to have Rick for voice, we need to have a voting mechanism for solutions. And the reason we built it is for the solution of health, right? If I'm an ex-athlete with a bad knee, and there's a whole bunch of guys like me that want to know what's the best knee brace around, or can we make a better one than can be found? Shouldn't we be allowed to put our money into a pool, hire someone to find out what the best is and have one made? Or even a pill, or even a cancer solution, or find out within our group of people, is cannabinol effective for the problems that I have? Is this type of fuel cleaner for my community, right? If I grow tons of sugar cane, wouldn't it be great to have a sugar cane power plant in our community that also generates electricity? That may not work in the Philippines. That may not work in Vanuatu, but our local community should be able to vote on how we're doing this, right? But what happens now is external forces come in and say, you know what? You guys need alternative energy. We're selling you these solar panels. Where are we getting them? Oh, we're getting them from China. We're getting them from the US. We're getting them from Europe. Well, don't we have any local manufacturers? We can't, because it's too expensive and too technologically advanced for our community to develop them. Well, then is that the best alternative energy for us, right? We don't have a voice. So we could be talking about social injustice. We need better, clearer, more women-controlled women's healthcare. We need better education around certain types of ideas and concepts that have been known to push societies forward, not arbitrarily. I don't want to vote on, and I'm sure people will want, I'd like to have a gun in my house. This is the mentality in the US. I want to be able to have as many guns in my house as possible. And when I vote, I don't want that vote to go away. So they've got a Second Amendment, and they've put that in place, and they use that for what it is. I want a Second Amendment around my healthcare. I should have an inalienable right to healthcare. Yet we don't have that on the books.
No.
I would like to vote one of those on the books.
It's been a pleasure talking to you. We're running out of time here. I think we've covered pretty well what I wanted to cover.
Great.
And I'm sure we'll have many more interesting discussions in the future, but I want to thank you for coming along today.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. And we'll talk again soon.
Okay. Thank you, Wayne.
Cheers.